Okay, well, Kufar Akbar, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Crossing the Crescent Discussion Group. This is a live streamed show dedicated to rightly dividing the truth between Christianity and Islam. I am your host, Eric Theckefer, coming to you live from the cavernous depths of the Kafir Cave in Dar al-Har, Kafiristan. I am looking at the chat, and Rosh Hashanah. Yes, Darcy brought that up. As a matter of fact, when she showed up today, happy Rosh Hashanah, or maybe I brought it up, one of the two. Happy Jewish New Year to people from that faith. As a matter of fact, Issa wished me I emailed Issa last night just to check and see how he was doing. He says he's healing up. I'm not sure if that's healing up fine, but healing up nonetheless. Am I centered on this thing right, or I don't know, I'm feeling like I'm a little out of kilter here. You know, there was a show clip. I was watching the intro there, and there's a show clip where that Afghani scumbag, he's 67, I think he was 63 years old, and the girl was 11 years old. He's marrying this 10, 11-year-old girl. And I ran across another clip this week on Instagram, I believe it was, and it basically has the same thing. But the guy isn't quite as old. At least he's probably in his 30s, maybe 40s. But the girl is just as young. And Rad has scolded me about this. He's scolded me and scolded me about this. He's like, Eric, man, you have to get over it. You have to get back to your jovial self, your joking around self. Get a happy disposition on, because you cannot be mad all the time. And this is true. And it's good advice. I get it, Rad. Thank you. But you just can't help but feel anger when you start looking at what is going on in the Islamic world and what they do to women and most pointedly young girls like that. I don't know. It's just kind of this, I don't know, this anger that just oozes deep in the bones when you start seeing that kind of stuff. But I was going to ask our sister Connie to switch things around. But Connie, I'm just going to say, pray for our sister Connie. She's going through some health issues right now, and I'm sure she covets our prayers to get her through this. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at two different topics. The first one we're going to be looking at is Islamic slavery, or maybe the second one, I don't know. And the other one is going to be looking at Illian Omar. Rad and I kind of had a discussion this week. We were talking about Illian and what a dirtbag she really is. So he sent me, I got 5 different links that he sent me that he said that he wants us to play to discuss. Am I correct on this, Rad? Well, Mr. Radical Moderate, are you there? Am I there? He's just popped off, evidently, his audio. And that's the thing, you call this guy, and he texts you, and we use what's it called? Not WhatsApp. What is this thing called? What is this thing called? What happened? Where did you go, Darcy? What happened? I'm in the middle now.
It's not working. I mean, what? You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I don't know. All of a sudden it locked up. It's not working.
What is this thing? What is the program that replaced Skype? What is this thing we use? What's it called again? Teams.
Teams.
There we go. Teams. I knew it would come to me. I just couldn't remember it off the top of my head. Okay, so what do you want? Do you want to talk about Illian Omar first, or do you want to go through Islamic slavery first? Which would you rather do?
Let's go over Islamic slavery, which is slave slavery.
All right, Islamic slavery for 1,000. Miss Shirks a lot. Let me switch this over to, no, I'm not going to do that. Let me just minimize this here. And then I will bring this up here, and we will discuss Islamic slavery. Where did it go? I just had it right there. Bada bing, bada boom. Shwada swing, shwada shwoom. Islamic slavery. The Islamic slave trade, more specifically. We could talk about slavery in Islam and its effects and how long it's lasted. As a matter of fact, we're gonna do that course of this. But let me just make sure we understand a couple things here. I'm a history teacher. I'm a history guy. This is what I do. A lot of people think history is boring. It's not. History is actually really exciting. It's educational, and it gives you a perspective on the world, consistent with what we see today. For example, everything that goes on today did not happen 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 500 years ago, and things that happened 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago don't happen today. And people assume that since that they don't happen today, or they do happen today, that those civilizations, those people groups in the past were evil. Now, I'm not going to say Islam is evil because it practiced slavery, any more than I'm going to say that Christianity is evil because there were Christians that practiced slavery. What I am going to say, though, is that within Islam itself, there is a component that enables Muslims to still practice slavery today. And that's one of the things that we will be focusing on and talking about as we get going. Elizabeth Victoria posts a book there. Let me put that out there. It's called Islam and the Abolition of Slavery. I'm not sure what the book is about. I've read several books on it. I have it on my Kindle. I have all kinds of books on my Kindle, and the book on slavery, Islamic slavery, and how they have tried to end it unsuccessfully. As of late, because it still goes on today. If you go to Africa today, there are still components of African slavery going on in Islamic countries, not in Christian countries, in Islamic countries. Now ask yourself, why are they on Islamic countries? It's because Islam has practiced slavery in West Africa and in East Africa, North Africa, for well over 1,000 years. And I'm not talking about not only practicing slavery in those locations, but also pulling slaves out of Africa and shipping them, whether it's East or West. That Muslims have been responsible for that since probably since the founding of Islam itself. So let's go ahead and move on over to this Hamajama and take a look and compare and contrast. Let's just compare and contrast the Islamic slave trade with the Atlantic slave trade. And the reason why we want to do this is because we're always told how evil the Europeans are for bringing Africans from the continent of Africa, shipping across the Atlantic Ocean, and enslaving them in faraway lands, in the lands that they were colonizing, whether it was in the West Indies, whether it was in Central and South America, and then eventually up into North America. Were Europeans guilty of this? And yes, absolutely. But let's compare that slave trade that the Europeans engaged in to the Arab slave trade, or what we would call the Islamic or sub-Saharan slave trade. Okay, number one, when we look at the Islamic slave trade, what happened here? Wow. Anyway, in the Islamic slave trade, you had approximately 29 million Africans, let me say that again, were sent east. And when I say eastward, I mean into Muslim countries, from the continent Africa. Now, that does not absolve the Europeans or the Christians, the Christian Europeans, because Christian Europeans had about 11 million sent. But here in America, here in the United States, we try to sit here and lament the fact that we were so evil during our colonial period, and for the first 85, 90 years of our country's existence, we practiced African slavery in our country. This is true, we did. But 95% of those slaves coming from Africa went to Central and South America. As a matter of fact, those conditions were so terrible on those plantations out there in the West Indies, those sugar plantations, that the life expectancy of a slave out there was about 2 years. It was just absolutely horrible. You were expected to die. The slaves that were sent eastward, the men were castrated. When you say, well, where are the remnants of the slave trade going eastward? Well, the men, not half of them, but a third of them were castrated, and many of those, I'm not sure what the percentage is, but many of them were completely, they had their genitals removed. It's just an abhorrent and horrible practice when they sent them eastward. When they sent them westward, they were not castrated. Men were not castrated when they were sent across the Atlantic. Now, I'm not trying to minimize the cruelty of the transatlantic slave trade. Make sure we don't understand that. But at the same time, it's nothing as cruel as the Islamic slave trade. 80% of the slaves going eastward died en route. They were either forced marched to death or died as a result of the castration. They never healed from it. The conditions were just so bad that the women were not strong enough to travel the route. So 80% died. When you look at the ones on the transatlantic slave trade, I'm not going to say only, but 7% as compared to 80% died en route. And the conditions on those slave ships were just absolutely horrendous. They really were. There was a movie that was made called Amistad, I believe it was. And that's a really good, accurate portrayal of how just how evil the slave trade was, but just how terrible the conditions were. The ones going eastward, two out of every three slaves going eastward were women. And the reason why they were women is that they would serve in harems and as sex slaves. Rad, you have your camera on. I don't want to bring you on with the camera. There we go. Now, I'm afraid if I bring you on, it's going to cancel everybody else out. Nope, there we go. You got in. Never mind. So 2 out of every 3 going eastward were women, and they were used as sex slaves. Whereas going westward, 2 out of every 3 were men, and because they were used for basically just manual labor, hard manual labor. Let's make sure we use our definitions correctly. And then you have not just the African slave trade, but you also have millions out of the continent of India were enslaved. And also, and also you had over a million people from the European continent were snatched off of the European continent and sold into the Islamic slave trade. There, I guess I had that out of order. 2 out of 3 were men. There we go. The Islamic slave trade lasted for 1,300 years, while the transatlantic slave trade lasted for about 250 years, or less than 250 years. When the United States was founded, and the Constitution was written, the transatlantic slave trade, the importation of slaves, was essentially banned. It was supposed to go into effect, I think it was 20 years after the signing of the ratification of the Constitution. It might have been 10. I'm fairly certain it was 20. So it said that 20 years after the ratification of the Constitution, there would be no more importation of slavery. And the reason for this is because in 1788, the institution of slavery in the United States was dead. It was a dying institution. It was there, but it was dying. It wasn't until Eli Whitney, 1793, I think it was 1794, somewhere around there. He invents the cotton gin, and he makes it profitable. And once you made something profitable, then the entire thing just explodes in size and scope, and the expansion of it all over the southern United States. And it eventually led to the death of 700,000 Americans trying to end it in our country. And when you look at men going to fight to free other men, I mean, there's a song, there's like the Battle Hymn of the Republic. You know, you died to make men free. That's what they did by the thousands, by the hundreds of thousands in our country.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, we get back to the irony of the cotton gin is he actually invented it to make it easier for the slaves.
What made it easier for the slaves? I didn't understand you.
No, he invented the cotton gin because he saw how miserable these slaves were going through the cotton fields and separating the cotton, and it was really hard and tedious work. So he invented it to make their lives easier.
Oh, Eli Whitney. Yeah. When you look at, I mean, this is just unintended consequences of it. Because slaves, just a statistic, slaves at that time could pick a pound of cotton a day and clean it. And when I mean by clean it, you have to pull the fibers off of those seeds. And that is a very long, labor-intensive process to do that. And when you remove that process, so that tedious process of pulling by hand and fingertips, pulling those fibers off of the seeds of the cotton ball, pulling those seeds out and removing it from the fibers, and you're basically using a rake now to rake the fibers off it, and the seeds fell out in the bottom. What you're doing is you went from one slave being able to pick and clean a pound of cotton a day to one slave being able to pick and clean 50 pounds of cotton a day. It's just the productivity went through the roof. And not only did that increase the demand for slaves, because you have perfect storm going on here. You have the Industrial Revolution and the textile industries exploding all over the place. You have the United States expanding westward, with the acquisition of all this land, going all the way up to the Mississippi River, and then expanding into the Louisiana Territory, and then the Mexican Cession. All of this stuff, all of these expansions were necessary for cotton to grow. Cotton just saps the soil, and you need to have all kinds of land so you can rotate it. I think it's every fourth year or something along those lines, where you have to rotate it before you can grow cotton in it again. But Eli Whitney's attempt to alleviate the suffering and the toil of the slaves resulted in the death of millions and enslavement of millions and millions and millions and millions more. Absolutely right, Rad. Absolutely right. But let's go ahead and talk about Islam and slavery here a little bit. A couple facts to throw out there. The Sharia, the Islamic law itself, permitted the raiding and kidnapping and enslaving of non-Muslims from the House of War, Dar al-Harb. And what I mean by that is that on the continent of Africa, you had these chieftains, these African chieftains. They would go to war with one another for the sole purpose of capturing people from the other tribes to enslave them, and then to trade and sell them to other slave traders, which eventually made it into the Islamic the Islamic traders, who were the ones that basically ran the ships on the Mediterranean. And it was a booming business. It wasn't until the Europeans ended up getting in on that gig around 1500, or after they discovered the Americas, and because all they were doing was growing some of these cash crops out on the Canary Islands on the west coast of Africa. Now they moved everything further west into the new continent, South America, Central America, the Caribbean islands, and then eventually in North America. It wasn't until they started going further westward that this idea of capturing and going to war with other slave tribes, it was not developed because of the expansion. It was already in place, and the Europeans only exploited that process that was already in place. It wasn't, when we start talking about how evil is the Islamic slave trade was, folks, that the Islamic slave trade, everybody's hands are bloody. The African slave trade, let me just restate that. The African slave trades, everybody's hands have blood on them, to include Africans in this. And I'm not blaming Africans specifically, and don't say, oh, well, he's a racist, he's white. Shut your pie hole. I'm just stating some historical facts here that everybody has blood on their hands when it comes to this slave trade. However, there are groups of people who have more blood on their hands than most people do. But the only people that really get blamed for it are the Americans, are the the white European Americans.
Here's a fun fact for you people. We get the English word slave from Slavs because the Muslims, the Ottomans, they do love their white women, and they would go on these slave raids. Which, by the way, just another fun fact of history, they ended the white slavery in 1870, right? Something like that. Well, they didn't really officially end it. The Caliph just said, okay, the only way you can go on slave raids is if I ordered it, and then they never ordered it again. So they ended the white slavery, but they kept the black slavery well into the 20th century. As a matter of fact, there is a picture. I'll see if I can find it on YouTube, not on YouTube, picture in Google Images, where you see, what's the name, Lawrence of Arabia, along with the Sheriff of Mecca, and there's a black man standing there, and that black man is identified as the Sheriff of Mecca's slave.
Right. Yep. I've
So
seen
well up and put on, yeah. Yeah. So, but here's a fun fact, just to back up what Eric was saying there. There was a movie in 2022, highly acclaimed, The Warrior Princess, I believe it was called. Let me see if I can find it here, the actual title. Yes, it was called the Woman King, 2022.
the what?
The Woman King, in 2020. It was made in 2022. It's called The Woman King. It's the story of Abu Jiji, an all-female warrior unit in the West African kingdom of Dahani during the 1800s. Well, here's a fun fact that they never told you. It was all black empowerment and blah, blah, blah. They really sold it during the BLM thing, empowering women. Blah. Here's the thing that they didn't tell you. The kingdom of Dahani was heavily involved in the slave trade from the 17th to 19th centuries. Dahani was a major regional power in West Africa, modern-day Benin, and actively participated in the transatlantic slave trade. The kingdom conducted military campaigns to capture prisoners from neighboring groups who were then sold to European traders in exchange for goods like firearms, textiles, and, of course, alcohol. Dahani's economy became deeply tied to the slave trade, particularly in the 18th century under the kings like Agaja and Gazo. The port of Quidibala, was a key hub for these trades, with estimates suggesting Dahomey exported tens of thousands of enslaved people. While this is all from Grok, while the Woman King portrays the Abuja and Dahomey in a heroic light, it downplays the kingdom's role in the slave trade, which has sparked some historical debates. So basically, this movie portrayed them as fighting their enemies that were trying to conquer them. No, they were fighting. They were enslaving people. That is who they were fighting. So there's no historical, or what do you call it, heroic thing about this. These were slave trade.
What year was this supposed to be? When?
The movie you said? The movie? What year was this? The movie?
No, when wants to take place? When is this setting?
Oh, like the 1700s, late 18 or early 1800s. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. So that's just to let you know. So yeah. But of course, the white man gets the blame for everything. There was no slavery until there was a white man. As a matter of fact, slavery was invented by a white man because white men are capitalists. And the white man invented as a tool of capitalism slavery and racism because there was no racism until the white man came along. And there was no war and all the other groups that were not white, they all got along and everybody lived in peaceful harmony. It's on kumbaya, my lord. And yeah. But anyway, that's enough. I'm getting off my soapbox. Continue on, Eric.
Well, I know you're lying about the Kumbaya thing because that song had not yet been invented.
Thank you for correcting me, Professor.
I'm just saying, don't be making stuff up on my show here. Um,
We only produce factual information.
yes. All right, just trying to keep us honest. Okay, so let's see here. Where did I leave off? Okay, so the Islamic law or Sharia permits the raiding and kidnapping, and this is what they did. They kidnapped and raided and enslaved non-Muslims from everywhere. Why did they do this? Well, they did this because a certain fella named Muhammad did this, folks. This is part of his sunnah. Let me get this pointer out here. There we go. So when you look at non-Muslims, residents of this, when you say the Islamic State, who don't pay the jizya tax, which is the capitation tax, you essentially become a slave. You can be killed or you can be enslaved. So if you don't pay the Muslim ruler a tax, the jizya, according to that's in the Quran 929. Then you can become a slave. And a lot of times they and their entire families were slaves. Another way to take slaves was in wartime. They would not only take men slaves, but they would also take the families of these men. And one of the laws within the Sharia itself, it says that if a man is taken captive in war, and his wife is taken captive in war, their marriage is automatically annulled. They're no longer married. Why? Because that wife is now going to be used as a sex slave. Oh, here we are. Let's see. Booty included slaves who were originally free non-Muslims, were captured in battle. They can be slaves. So you had entire populations, folks, of these territories that were conquered can be and were enslaved, and this provided women who are otherwise rare on the battlefield, and this as a source of slavery to serve in these harems for these Islamic scumbags that wanted them. The law itself, Islamic law, the Sharia, does not allow the enslavement of Muslims. So this idea, and this is an idea that you hear continually put out there by especially Muslims, what's the Louis Farrakhan group, that is Nation of Islam jokers, that you put out there, oh, our ancestors, Muslims were brought to this country. No, they weren't. Muslims, you might have onesies and twosies. Okay, they always slip through the cracks. But for the most part, if you were a Muslim, it was against the Islamic law, it was against the Sharia for you to be enslaved and sold into slavery. So the idea that Muslims were trafficked in the African slave trade it's just not true. It's just not a true statement. It's not factual. It's not based in fact or any type of historical fact. No. As a matter of fact, the richest man to ever live up till you get to Bezos or whoever the richest man is now, Elon Musk, whatever, was a guy by the name of Manasseh Musa. Manasseh Musa lived in the kingdom of Mali in the 15th century, 14th century, one of the two, and a long time ago. And he engaged in African slavery. And that's how he made a lot of his gold, mining for gold was part of it. And so the spice trade, sure. But a lot of his money was made from trading in African slaves. It was the Muslims who essentially ran the African slave trade itself. That's a fact. And, What's this? Matthew. So what are we saying here? Read this, Matthew 6, so they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. Though in context, I don't understand what you mean by context. The context is when you get married. Let me read it. I'll read it on the air, no problem. Okay, let me find my Bible app's over here. Bible app, Matthew. No, Matthew. What is it? Matthew 19:6. 19:6. Okay. And he answered them, have you not read that which made them, the beginning made them male and female, not male and male? So this kind of throws this idea of same-sex marriages out the window. I got to sneeze. And he said, for this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and the twain shall be one flesh. Wherefore there are no more twain, there are no more two, but one flesh. What therefore God hath joined together, let no man put asunder. And I think that what you're saying here is the fact that men cannot annul a marriage, regardless of who they are. And this would directly this is a great point. This needs to go in my book. This is a great point where, what are causes for divorce? Well, Jesus is very explicit, and he says the only cause for divorce is because of infidelity. So just because you're captured in battle, is that a cause for divorce? No, that's not what Christ said. So when we start talking about Muhammad being a false prophet, ba-bing, right there. That's another one. What is this here? You pointed to JSTOR, the Arab slave trade lifting the taboo. I'll read that. Thank you for that source. Okay, let's go to the next one. This again debunks the lies. The slaves were Muslim. Okay, I just said that. And again, this is an often propagated lie that Muslims coming to the Americans, or Muslims that came to the Americans, were enslaved. Not true. Why? Because Muslims ran the slave trade in Africa. And since they ran the slave trade in Africa, they did not enslave each other. It's against the Sharia, against Islamic law. So therefore, they didn't trade in other Muslims. They trade in, they practice, what is it, animism, where they worship, the majority of Africans worshiped their ancestors, or venerated their ancestors as part of their religious beliefs. It wasn't Islam at all. Muhammad enslaved people. All kinds of hadith that we're going to discuss here in a little bit that show that Muhammad enslaved people. Muhammad raped slave girls. What is the one that was in the bed with, I believe it was Mary the Copt. Mary the Copt was a slave girl that was given to him that he raped. So many other examples of, as a matter of fact, one of them was given to him, and one of his chief guards was so worried that, because he had just killed the woman's husband in a raiding party or in a battle or whatever, and now he was going to marry her, and since he's marrying her, his chief guard, Secret Service guy, or whatever you want to call him, is paranoid. So the guy's waiting outside Muhammad's tent the whole night, waiting for the woman to get up in the middle of the night and cut his. It's not funny. You're right. It is sick. Yes.
Can I mention something, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
The number one enslavement of Islam is slavery of the mind.
I
Everybody,
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's for me, and I make no secret of this on the show. I've said it several times before. In order to accept Islam, you basically have to give up logic and history in order for it to work. What it does is it does enslave your mind, and it forces you to start thinking instead of like we do holistically, you begin with the Quran, and if it doesn't fit the Quran, it's got to be wrong. What was that guy? I can't. It doesn't matter. But they work just the opposite way to settle facts in Islam than what we do here in the 21st century. It's just absolutely, and then plus I think it's a demonic possession. I mean, if you actually think that Muhammad was a prophet of any kind, and knowing the things that we know based on Sahih narrations, what this man did, you just I don't know how you can think that this guy was a prophet, especially when you start looking at all the prophets throughout history. He does not match any of. I mean, this guy, for criticizing him, if you criticized him, he had you killed. He literally had you killed. Now I get, and then one of the things, I think they go to Ezekiel or Jeremiah or whoever it was, he had a bear attack a couple of kids or something. I just, shut up. This guy had 40 some odd people, over 40 people. We've done a show on it before. Over 40 people, different people, different instances, not 40 people, over 40 different instances where this guy got so butthurt by what people had to say from him. He had to say about him. He had them killed. That's the Muhammad of Islam. So when we start talking about the enslavement of the mind, being, demonically spiritual, this demonic spirit coming over you, thinking that Muhammad was a prophet of any kind, it's just absolutely sickening. Muhammad sold slaves. So he enslaved people, raped slave girls, and sold slaves. So if Muhammad engaged in enslaving, owning and selling slaves, that means that it is sunnah, meaning that Muslims can do it. They don't have to do it, but it's permissible. So if the prophet
Eric, you silly kafir. Don't you know that the Quran says to free slaves? It abolished slavery. Unfortunately, it took a kafir by the name of John F. Kennedy, finally in 1960 something, to tell the king of Saudi Arabia, I know you own slaves, I know you have slaves. By the time we adjourn these meetings in the next 2 days, those slaves will be free and you will end slavery. And wouldn't you know it, Saudi Arabia officially ended slavery in 19. Now they still practice it on the down low. Don't get me wrong. But
right,
yeah, don't get me wrong. But officially, it was ended because of John F. Kennedy doing the Trump on him. But yeah. So no, this is not. This is no. But here's the thing. So the Quran says, okay, if you commit a sin, then you are to sacrifice a bunch of animals. If you can't sacrifice a bunch of animals, you can sacrifice these other cheaper animals. If you can't sacrifice these cheaper animals, then you can free one slave. Now, here's the deal. It doesn't say you can't then go and buy 2 more slaves. In other words, only freeing the slave now becomes a thing to get you forgiveness. So what do? You buy 10 slaves, you free 1. Every time you commit a sin. Then when you're done committing sin, you buy 10 more slaves. Do you see what I'm saying? So every time you can sin forever as long as you keep buying slaves. So it actually perpetuates slavery. Oh.
Yeah, and some of the rules that, I mean, if you go to Paul's show, Paul Sutliff on the Sutliffian Report, he's going through the Sharia, and I'm gonna bring up a couple things from Reliance and Travel and the Sharia here in just a couple minutes. To show you that that's exactly right what Rad is saying. There are rules where if you commit a certain type of sin, then if you free a slave, it's supposed to absolve that sin. Or if you get 1 slave, you have to give 2 slaves, whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of stupid rules in that. But that's Islamic practice. Again, there has been no universal abolition of slavery in Islamic doctrine. Now, in some of these Islamic countries, yeah, they can claim that they do not have slavery, and many of them do not. but many of them still do too. And that's the point. And the point that they make, are the reason, the justification that they use in order to continue slavery, is the fact that the Prophet did it, Muhammad did it. And since Muhammad did it, it's Sunnah. Who are you to tell me that I can't do something that our own Prophet did? Not my Prophet, don't get me wrong, but our own Prophet did during his lifetime. That's evil, according to them anyway. All right. So let's look in the Quran, what the Quran has to say about, what does the God of the universe have to say about slavery? Well, he says, "O prophet, we have made lawful to thee thy wives, to whom thou hast paid their dowries, and those what? Those slaves whom thy right hand possesses out of the prisoners of war, whom Allah has assigned to thee." So the God of the universe, the God of the universe, the God of the universe has assigned slaves, human beings, people created in his image, to others to own. Yes, sir. And we've all heard, if you're a Muslim and you're thinking, oh, well, look at the book of the Deuteronomy or whatever, when they take girls captive or something, and I can't remember how it exactly. If you take a girl captive, you're supposed to cut her hair, and then you can bring her into your household and eventually marry her or whatever. Shut up. Shut your pot. This is nothing even close to that type of comparison. Not even close. So when we start talking about, what do we got? Oh, is DL here? Or is that Connie? One of the two. Either way, if it's Connie, we're glad to see you, sister. But if it's here, I mean, if you look at here, I mean, look what this is, the God of the universe. This is the same thing of 65:4, where it says you can marry and consummate the marriage and divorce girls who have not yet menstruated. This is how sick this God is. This isn't a God. This isn't a good God. This is a demon, if it's anything, or if it's not Muhammad's imagination. This is definitely a demon. What else we got here? 25 or 20 verse chapter or Surah 23, ayats 5 and 6. Who abstain from sex, except what? Except those joined to them in the marriage bond, or who? Those who their right hand possess. And those who their right hand possess is just a term. It's a term used for sex slaves. That's just an Islamic way of saying sex slave. How convenient. It's like saying a baby is an embryo, so therefore you can not a fetus. I'm sorry, a fetus, not an embryo. You can therefore abort it. It's not a human being. It's a fetus, don't you see? No, it's not a slave. It's a person that your right hand possesses is all. And then lastly, forbidden are women already married. What? You cannot what? Have sex with women who are married? Yeah, we call that adultery. Duh. But then look at it. It said, except what? Except those whose captive slaves, whom your right hand possesses. So even if they're married, it's all right. You can go ahead and do whatever you want to them. That's Islam. That is Sunnah. That is, or not Sunnah. That's the God of the universe telling Muhammad in his last revelation to man, Muhammad, look what we're doing here. This is my last message to you. Make sure you get it right. Your right hand possesses something, that's yours. I gave that to you. I gave you another human being for you to rape.
See, in Islam, you got to have a strong thin hand.
I know. So, again, you told me don't get mad, don't get angry. Hold on, I gotta miss something. Oh, sorry. The queen coming in here, trying to grab my AirPods. She thought that she didn't know the camera was on. Duh. Okay. Yes. Demonic thought. Thank you, Connie. That's exactly right. All right. Let's go. Are there more? Oh, for heaven's sakes, here's another message from Allah, the God of the universe. What does it say? But no, enjoy what you took in war, lawful and good. Uh-oh. You're supposed to enjoy that which you took in war, the booty. You're supposed to enjoy the booty of the booty. That's the God of the universe telling you that? Boy, you better get after it. What is this one? Here's another one. Marry those among you who are single and those who are left fit among your male slaves and your female slaves. So you can marry these girls. If you're a female slave, do you have any, I mean, who's, because we always heard this mantra that women in Islam have to get permission from their fathers, or they have to give their own, I mean, who are they? You're a slave. What position do you have to provide permission for you to marry? Hold on, let me spell it. N-U-N, none. You have no standing. Here's another one. O ye who believe, retaliation is prescribed for you in the matter of murdered, the free man for the free man, and the slave for the slave, and the female for the female. So this is sanctioning slavery, the slave for the slave. There you go. If God didn't believe that slavery was okay, why would he be putting it into his last revelation to mankind? Do you think he's stupid or what? Good Lord. Okay, so we also have the Sunnah. Now let's make sure. Whoops, what did I do there? Let's make sure we understand what the Sunnah is. What happened here? Did I click off? There we go. Sorry, I hit the wrong button here. Let me get off of there. There we go. The Sunnah. The Sunnah is what the Prophet said and did, what Muhammad said and did. Now, before I get all kinds of hate mail, because I've gotten mail like this before, when I say the Prophet, there is not 1 second in my life, there's not 1 second in my life where I think Muhammad was a prophet. And there will never be a second, even a split second, even a fraction of a second. So when I'm eating peanuts. Sorry. Excuse me. There will never be any moment where I think that Muhammad was a prophet or give him any credit for being a prophet. That's just the language I chose to use. My fault. Okay, so let's look at the Sunnah of the false prophet. How's that? The false prophet of Muhammad. Anas reported that a person was charged with fornication with a slave girl. Oh no! Of Allah's messenger. Thereupon Allah's messenger said to all, "Go and strike his neck." Allah came to him and he found him in a well, making his body cool. I'm sorry, not booty call. His body cool. Ali said to him, "Come out." And as he took hold of his hand and brought him out, he found that his organ, sexual organ, had been cut. Hadrat Ali refrained from striking his neck. He came to the Allah's apostle and said, Allah's messenger is not even a sexual organ with him. So Muhammad thinks that this guy is having sex with his slave girl. And that upsets Muhammad. Why? Well, that's what he is supposed to be doing, not somebody else. So if somebody else is having sex with his slave girl, allowing slavery, it's Sunnah. Therefore, it's wrong. Now, I'm not sure if they would consider that some type of adulterous type relationship. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's just that the fact that they can have sex slaves in Islam. All right, here's another one. The following hadith is graded Sahih. It was narrated from Anas again that the messenger of Allah had a female slave with whom he had intercourse. But Aisha and Hafsa would not leave him alone until he said that he was forbidden for him. Then Allah, the mighty, sublime, revealed, "O Prophet, why do you forbid for yourself that which Allah has allowed to you until the end of the verse?" Okay, so let's this is rich. Muhammad's having sex with Mary the Copt, his slave girl, in Hafsa's bed. Muhammad is having sex with a slave girl in Hafsa, his other wife's bed. Yes, that's how disgusting this man is. Hafsa finds out about it, no problem. Aisha finds out about it, big problem for Muhammad, because Aisha is Muhammad's favorite little girl. So what does Muhammad do? He swears by Allah, I will never have sex with this slave girl again. I promise you, ladies, this will never, ever happen again. But after that happens, what does Allah do? Well, Allah comes back. Allah hears about this oath that he's given to Aisha and Hafsa, and he's like, yo, dude, what's wrong with you? Look what it says. Look what it says. Then Allah, O Prophet, why do you forbid for yourself which Allah has allowed to you? That's in the Quran, folks. So he's saying, why are you forbidding? Why are you, Muhammad, why are you promising your wives? Why are you promising these wives that you won't have sex with this thing, this woman, this human being created in the image of God that I have given to you? So for the explicit reason of having sex with, why are you promising that you won't? I gave them to you for this reason, Muhammad. That's what's going on in this verse. If that isn't sick, if that isn't perverted, if that isn't evil, I don't know what is. I really don't know what is. And then he makes an oath and says, I promise, I won't do it again. And then he says, why are you making an oath? I gave you this woman. If you want a copy of this slideshow, let me know. I'll email it to you. Just tell as many people about it as you possibly can. This is just pure evil. And this is from Sunan. This is the hadith, the Sahih hadith from Al-Nasi. Okay. Next one. O Prophet, why do you prohibit which God has made lawful to you in the terms of your... Oh, this is the same thing for Mary the Copt. Okay. When he laid for her own house and her own bed. Okay, I just got done explaining. And God is forgiving, merciful, having forgiven you this prohibition. Okay, so this is a tafsir from Al-Jalalain explaining 66:1. That's the verse that it goes on to explain. What a sick, good night. All right. Narrated, I don't know, variety of the Prophet sent to Ali to Khalid to bring the kumas of the booty. And I hated Ali, and Ali had taken a bath after sexual act with a slave girl from the booty. I said to Khalid, don't you see this? When we reached the Prophet, I mentioned to him, and he said, oh, blah, blah. Do you hate Ali? I said, yes. He said, do you hate him for he deserves more than that from the booty, the kumas? So here you have a narration where the nephew of Muhammad goes out, pulls the slave girls out, goes out and rapes her. And then after he gets done raping her, he goes to take a bath. And this guy, he's one of the captains, one of the colonels, one of the generals, I don't know what he is. He's upset about it because this isn't the way you're supposed to roll. The booty is supposed to be divided up equitably amongst the soldiers. And if it's not, then go ahead and mute here. There we go. If it's not, then that's unfair to all the other soldiers who fought in the battle. So you know this is what causes internal strife in military organizations, and this guy clearly knows it. I don't care who you are; you don't take something that's not your fair share, and this is what exactly happened here. So when we start talking about the booty and enslaving women for the sole purpose of sexual intercourse, this is a great example of it. Here you have another long one. I'm not going to bore you with this one. This is a long one. But they pulled one of the prettiest girls in all of Arabia out, so she too can be raped. Let's go into the law, the Islamic law, the Sharia. This is straight from their jurisprudence manual that I have under my pigs right behind me, the Reliance of the Traveler. And this is what it says. When a child or a woman is taken captive, they become slaves by the fact of the capture. And this is exactly what I was talking about at the beginning. And the woman's previous marriage is annulled. What was that? Where are you? Oh my goodness, I want to, right there. What does that say? So they're no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate. And this is exactly a direct violation, according to Jesus Christ, of God's law. And this is what they're doing. Just because I have captured you, now your marriage is no longer valid. Why? Because we're going to sell you into, not even sell you, we're going to put you into a harem where you are going to be a sex slave for the rest of your life. Turn off your camera, Rad. There we go. Bien. Okay, what else does the Alliance of the Traveler have to say about it? Right here in Division O, Chapter 19, number 14. When an adult male is taken captive, the Caliph considers the interest of Islam and the Muslims and decides between the prisoner's death, you can kill him, you can enslave him, or you can release him without paying anything, or ransom him in exchange for money, or for a Muslim, you can trade him. Muslim captive held by the enemy. So there are provisions now where if you capture somebody in battle, this is part of their law, folks. This is their law. This isn't some archaic practice that happened century. This I understand. Like I said, I'm a history teacher. I understand history, and this is what they used to do in the 7th century. If you went to battle and you captured somebody else, you were a slave. Were their slave. One of the most popular colonists in American history, John Smith, who led Jamestown, made Jamestown the first successful permanent English colony, was captured by Muslims in battle, and he was himself enslaved. And that was what, 1590s or so, somewhere late 16th century, 17th, somewhere in between there. So one of the most famous colonialist, was himself enslaved by Muslims. Okay, I get it. But it's 2025, guys, and this is still part of their law. Slavery is still part of Islamic law. Change it. Well, they can't. Why can't they change it? Because if they do, then that is basically disrespecting Muhammad. And you can't.
Allah's laws. You cannot change Allah's laws. Kafir.
Yeah, you cannot do it. And if you do, I mean, it is kufar. You can't do that. So Isa is, I don't know if Isa's bumping into things out there or what he's doing.
Next section.
There we go. If you want to come up, Isa, just unmute yourself. You sound like you're out and about. So that's it. That's all I got on Islamic slavery. I think we've made our point with it. It's just an evil institution that still persists today, 21st century. And, I don't care I do care if Jesus Christ practiced slavery, because he didn't. And one of the biggest demons that is often portrayed by Muslims is Paul. And Paul writes a letter freeing a slave. And he says, look, put me down as payment for that. Enslave me. Make me your slave instead of, was it Onesius or I can't remember the guy's name. But yeah, so Christianity, essentially, we have, according to the Bible, we're not supposed to enslave each other. According to the New Testament, anyway. I know they practice servitude and forced servitude in the Old Testament. I get it.
But it was only 7 years.
Jesus Christ did away with it. What was that, Rand?
It was only 7 years, and then they were to be freed. That was the limit of the servitude. And this is what you got to understand, people. Slavery back in the ancient world was not chattel slavery of the 17th and 18th century in colonial America, or even in Spanish America. Okay, slavery was basically your occupation. Okay, you learned to trade. You were taken into a household. You were given. You were treated relatively well, I should say, but you were not free. Don't get me wrong. It was not live in high society ways. But there were many times where the slave was freed and he was like, "Why do you hate me, master? Where am I to go?" You know what I mean? It's and a lot of it, you earned a trade, and then you were freed by, like, you would become a blacksmith, and then you were freed by the blacksmith, and you were given, not I shouldn't say funny, but basically it was like an early franchise. You would open up your own blacksmith shop, but you would pay the other blacksmith that freed you for your freedom, for running that shop. You see what I'm saying? But it was your shop, okay? I mean, no, there were all kinds of, especially in Roman thing. And here's another thing that has to be pointed out about the chattel slavery. And this is something that fascinates me about the Civil War. Why these white Southerners who were unemployed because of slavery, okay? I mean, when you got a free labor source that will work for only scraps at the table, and you only minimally have to clothe them and feed them, and they were able to do all the hard labor, why would you employ anyone a wage? You know what I mean? So because of slavery in the South, unemployment was extremely high for white Southern Americans, or Confederates, if you want to call them that. So it just fascinates me that they would fight for such a thing. As a matter of fact, I remember there are letters from the Civil War where they talk about, why are we doing this? You know what I mean? But anyway, either way, slavery in Islam is a sexual slavery for the white women, and then a sexual mutilation slavery for the black Africans that would run the harems, okay, and just chattel slavery for the black women. They would do double castration for the black males. I don't think you covered this part, where they would cut off both testicle and penis.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
That's
what resulted in the death of many of them. I mean,
right. Yeah, I mean, it's a horrendous practice because even to this day, the N word in Arabic is the word for slave, abid, and they don't let their women date no abids. As a matter of fact, I think Muslim apologist Shadid Lewis did multiple videos on this, okay, of the racists in Islam. Okay, no, they really do not like black people. Okay, I mean, they're extremely racist. So yeah, Muslims are basically full of it. But,
how and this selling this lie to American African Americans is just, for me, it's disgusting, because what it's doing is it's preying on the historical ignorance of an entire people group to appeal for their most base emotions of hatred, to say, look what they did to your no, dude, this has nothing. I mean, the people who sold your ancestors into slavery were Muslims. They had nothing to do. Anyway, all right, let's go ahead and be done with that. Let's put that away. And you have all kinds of video clips here that you want us to play about Illian Omar.
She's a piece of work.
Yeah,
she needs to be deported. She's a horrible person. Anyway, play the first one. Play the one where she's at the church, and it's right after Charlie Kirk's death.
I got it right. Hold on.
This is what this vile woman said right after Charlie Kirk's death, like the day after. Now, I don't know if she's in. It looks like she's in a church, but some people say it's just like a meeting hall. I don't know, but it has stained glass windows.
Looks like
it does look like a church. Yeah, it does look like a church.
Let me pull it up here.
But just the reaction to her too was just amazing.
Yeah, let's see.
I do believe those of you who are interested.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear it?
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
In rewriting this hateful man's history are full of shit.
Thank you.
What did she just say? I couldn't hear her. What did she just say?
A piece of, sound like she said piece of or full of.
Replay the whole thing from the beginning. Just replay it and listen, and then I'll explain what she says.
I can't understand.
Those of you who are
No, all the way
interested
from the
in
beginning.
rewriting
What?
All the way from the beginning. You didn't start from the beginning. All the way from the beginning.
I do believe those of you who are interested in rewriting this hateful man's history are full of shit.
Thank you.
Okay, here's what she said. I do believe that those of you who are going to rewrite this evil man's history, referring to Charlie Kirk, are full of shit. And she gets a standing ovation. She called Charlie Kirk, actually, no, not evil, hateful man. She called Charlie Kirk hateful and said that somehow we're going to rewrite his history. Nobody's rewriting anybody's history.
What's exactly? I want to hear what she says after this. Let's hear what she says after. All right, let me back it up just a little bit.
Oh, it's the same video, just this is a different angle. Somebody sent you this.
Are full of shit.
Thank you.
She's in church. That's a church.
No, that's what it looks like, doesn't it? Like one of those
Those of you
piano there. See that? There's a piano right there, microphone.
But the stained glass window's not Christianist. I don't know.
No, this is, you got an organ, you got a pulpit. This is a church.
I don't know.
This I know what churches. I've been in all kinds of different churches, folks. This is a church. This woman in. She is speaking. This is a hijab wearing Muslima speaking from the pulpit, and then saying that people are full of shit. What type of what type of scumbag? Okay.
Well, she called Charlie. She said those that are going to rewrite this hateful man's history, which she's referring to Charlie Kirk. She calls him a hateful man, are full of shit.
Okay, I don't care who says she said who they are. Who's full of shit? You don't say that from a pulpit in a church.
Well, you don't call Charlie Kirk hateful. That's another thing.
Okay, well that's opinion. No. You're missing my point. The point is you do not cuss from the pulpit of any church.
I understand that.
That is,
and I agree with you on that.
Disregard for the decorum for the house of God that you're in, and you're using this type of foul language.
I agree with you on that. But the thing is that I don't think you're getting is she totally degraded a man who was just murdered over free speech. Okay,
that's what tells you who she is too. I mean, she's just a scumbag. She had I think the case for deporting her back to Somalia should be made, tried in a court of law, and have her put her little butt on a plane and sent back to that country where her and her entire family can be tried for war crimes. That's my opinion. This is a loathsome wench. Oh my goodness. Shut up. I don't want to hear you. Okay, the next one. What do we have here? We have, I'm here to protect the interests of Somalia from inside. Do you want to do that one or is there another one?
That one. I'll play that one. Yeah, that's why she's here.
All right, let me cue this one up. Screen. Illian, I'm here. Yeah, who cares what you're here for? Okay.
Annaga haddii aan nahay dad Soomaali ah, waxaan nahay dad isjecel. Waa laga yaabaa meelaha qaarkood inaan isku xagxaganno, laakiin haddii runtii ay imaato waxaan nahay dad isku tashto, dad walaalo ah, dad dhiig lah, dad isku og inay Soomaali yihiin, inay Muslim yihiin, oo iyagana isku hiiliya, dadka walaalahoodna u hiiliya. Marka daraad markii ayaan dhexdaas markii aan maqalnay in qaar Soomaali ah ama Soomaali sheegato in Ethiopia ay la galeen ma baqaan af Soomaali wixii lagu dhaho agreement heshiis maxamuud nuur hadda aniga Soomaaliga badiyo soo ceeb ma aha dad badan ay soo wacay oo waxay leeyihiin ilhaan dawladda Mareykanka inaan la hadashid waaye dawladda Mareykanka maxay ka qabanaysaa jawaabteedu waxay ahayd dawladda Mareykanka waxay ka qabanaysaa wixii annaga aan dhahno dawladda Mareykanka qabo waa kalsoonidaas inaan isku qabno annaga Soomaali hadii aan nahay wadankan annaga ku nool wadankan wadankii aan annaga tax ka dhiibno waaye waa wadankii gabar idinka dhalatayne ee Congress ka fadhiso intii aniga aan Congress joogo wadanka Soomaaliya biyaheeda dad kaleeta iyo badeeda dad kale ma qaadanayaan
How is she advocating for Somalia and the repression of an Ethiopia? Where the hell does she get off doing that? Yep.
wadanka Mareykankana kuma taageerayo dad kaleeta in annaga ayna dhacaan
Wow. I'm here to protect the interests of Somalia from inside the U.S. system. I think we would call that treason. I don't know.
marka taas ka seexda reer Minnesota gabadhii Congress u dirsateen way idinka war haysaa sidaad idinka u dareemaysiin dantaas ay u dareemeen madaxweyne Xasan Sheekhna
Not the Somalians. Notice the language. Because if she said that she was there to protect the people from Somalia residing in her district in Minnesota, no problem. No problem. But no, what she's doing is she's advocating the protection of her home country. This is why, golly, this is why people that are foreign born, this is what the founding fathers, I mean, they rationalize this with at a minimum, the United States president. But also, the reason why they put that provision in there that the U.S. president had to be a U.S.-born citizen, not just a U.S. citizen, but a U.S.-born citizen, is these allegiances that you naturally have if you are an immigrant. Well, many people were still in the process of immigrating to our country. Many Europeans were flocking to our country by the thousands, by the hundreds of thousands, by the millions. And they understood that for the president. But also, it was just very rare that you would have districts evolve where you would have a foreign-born citizen, somebody who got citizenship, get into Congress and then turn around and advocate for the protection of your country? Really? I mean, this is where what war was that? What was that called? The Alien Sedition Acts. This is the Alien Sedition Acts on steroids here, folks. This is the reason why they passed the Alien Sedition Acts, is because they didn't want recent immigrants from France. They didn't want recent immigrants from England coming into the country and then trying to influence our country into getting into a war to protect their home country. You think we would have learned our lesson? Goodness gracious.
waxaan leeyahay waan kugu faraxsanahay shaqada fiican aad qabatay in dadka Soomaaliya iyo dadka meel kasta ku nool aad dareensi.
And what are they doing in Somalia or doing in Ethiopia? They're pushing radical Islamists are going into Ethiopia, trying to turn Ethiopia into a Muslim nation. That's what they're trying to do. Let's not kid ourselves what the motivation behind this is. It's to Islamicize the entire eastern side of the African continent. That's what they're trying to do. What up?
Si kasta anaga aan u dhibanahay Soomaali hadii aan nahay waxaan nahay dad karti leh dad wadankooda aqoonsan dad wadankoodii aan wiligood danger laga gelin karin marka waxaan reer Minnesota iyo Soomaalida meel kasta ku nool adeerkaya hadda mar dhow ka hadlaayay idinkaga hambalyeynaya sida aad iskugu wada duuban tihiin sida aad kulligiin u garab istaagteen madaxweynaheena because wuu u baahan yahay in kulligeen aan garab istaagno soomaaliya waa soomaali soomaaliya waa hal
Stop it, rewind it just a little bit, just like the last phrase.
soomaaliya waa hal
What?
Or she says Somali is for Somalis. Somali is for Somalis only. Oh. But saying American first is genocide.
Americans only. Get out, wench. How's that?
Yeah,
Do you know
no.
what Somaliland is?
No, what is that?
Somaliland is?
What is Somaliland? I was wondering that.
Somaliland, there's a big war between Somalia and Somaliland. So Somaliland is in the north. So it's the southern, it's sort of like Tibet and China. It's a very similar kind of situation. So what you're hearing her say is that she believes, because she's a southern Somali, she's not from Somaliland. So she's saying that Somalia is one whole land. So she's actually advocating for this idea because Somalilanders want independence. They see themselves as their own country.
We are fighting in Ethiopia then.
And so this is a problem. This is a problem. So northern Somalilanders do not agree with Somalians like the southern Somalians. There's a huge conflict and tension. There was a mass killing of Somalilanders. So people should know that. It was very terrible and horrible.
Okay, well, did this start? Okay, all of this killing, let's just cut to the chase. Much of this killing occurred in the late 80s and 90s, or started at least then, when her dad was a colonel in the army, and he is the one that participated in a lot of this ruthless killing, this slaughtering, this wholesale slaughtering of other Somalis to prop up the government there. Well, when the government toppled, then this is where we get the
Black Hawk Down.
Yeah, what was that guy? Adid. What was his name? Adid, the leader. This is where we get people of his ilk just being a thug, gangster, starving his people out by doing this. I mean, this internal civil war that goes on in these countries is just. I mean, look at Yemen. I'm not trying to get off the subject here, Isa. I'm sorry, but I mean, it's just how cruel, absolutely cruel they are to one another, and then you have people like this mensch continually inflaming the bitter hatreds that are involved in all of this. And then she thinks that the United States, she can use her position as a congresswoman in the United States to dictate policy to this. Screw this woman. Throw her out and send her back there. You want to go ahead and have some influence there? Go back to Somalia, and do it. Don't come here and do it. That's the whole point. Go ahead, Isa. I'm sorry. Sounded like Isa was calling from a closet someplace too. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Lashana Tova. Happy Rosh Hashanah, Lashana Tova. It's a Happy New Year to all of you. I was just simply saying, I actually have to go, but I wanted to share this. I think we need to hold accountability and honesty about what's going on. And what she's saying is pretty horrendous. She's totally accepting the genocide that occurred to Somalilanders. And it was evil, and it was horrible, and it was bad. The same thing that happened to Bangladeshis or Eastern Pakistanis. It's the same thing. And we need accountability, and we need to hold up when these things do occur. So that's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
She's just perpetuating the violence. Typical. I mean, this lady, I would guess that she probably has an IQ of about 6. No, I'm sorry.
No, so that's the other thing. This is my opinion. We need to stop saying our enemies, the left, are stupid and dumb, have low IQs. Clearly, they have high IQs because they are able to convince people to vote for them. In other words, their followers and the people that vote for them may have low IQs, but they don't. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're saying. I sincerely believe, just to let you know, all this stuff over Charlie Kirk and the left's reaction to him, where they're still they're basically blaming him for his own murder. They're calling him a Nazi still, and a hate monger, and all these horrible things. Okay, and this isn't just like randos on the internet. These are actual professors. These are school teachers at every grade level. Hell, there's a Delta and United Airline pilots. There's doctors and nurses. Okay? There's just all kinds of people across the spectrum. Not only that, but there's also, of course, the politicians like this witch. You got AOC. You got what's her name? The one that the poster for why every Muslim male prefers goats. I can't think of her name. What's her name? She's from Michigan, from Dearborn, Michigan. She's
Rashida Talib.
Rashida Talib. And you got what's her name? Little Miss Moffat. Fake Ghetto. Well, no, that's AOC, but you got Fake Ghetto. Congresswoman from Texas. She's
Jasmine Crocket.
Jasmine Crocket, who was raised in the upper crust family, went to the most privileged schools in America, went to the most private privileged colleges and universities, okay? Comes from a very wealthy family, and all of a sudden she's like grown up in the hood. You know what I mean? She's just completely, oh my God. Her accent.
I used to work with a teacher that was like that. She came from a very well-to-do family. She talks like a ghetto rat.
It's just a persona for them.
Brilliant, but she acted like a thug. She kept getting arrested. This is a teacher. She's getting arrested all the dadgum time.
For what?
Assault?
Protest?
Threatening assault? No. This is a teacher. And then her boyfriend ends up getting killed in a drug deal. Oh, yeah. This is a teacher.
Oh, we got to do a show on this. You got to give it
I'm not going to out this girl because I probably had some type of liability issue or something.
Oh,
but
hell no.
This is a true statement.
Really? All right. Well, we'll talk about that later. But anyway, she's sitting there saying, no, I am not going to honor a man or respect a man. That, I didn't know this, but I found out later. He had nasty things to say about me. So, no, I will not, blah, 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 blah. Well, he told the truth about her, that she had a fake ghetto accent. And she was, you know what I mean? Okay. But either way, point being is this, okay? I really believe that these people know what they're doing, and they're literally trying to gaslight some lunatic on the right, somebody that's, just unhinged, having a bad day, from going out and doing something stupid. And that will be all the news.
Down in Dallas because they shot up an ICE facility today.
No, that was a lefty, dude.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So no, all these attacks are all coming from the left, and they're scrambling, and they're blaming us for it. I don't get this. So the dude that shot up the ICE facility today, he fired blindly into a covered panel van. He couldn't see who was in the van. Okay, the windows are tinted.
He shoots detainees, yeah.
And he shot and killed 2 detainees and wounded another one. And then, of course, killed himself. But they're like, oh, this proves he only shot detainees. No ICE officer was hurt in this shooting. He clearly was far right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what they do. And they're still saying, like that Jimmy Kimball. He was saying just as a note last week.
I don't want to go down that road. That's just all it's going to do. Me pissed off, and then we're gonna.
Okay. Anyway, we'll play this next video of Somali.
Cover that stuff. I don't want
to. Play the video of Somali chick.
Okay, let's look at this one.
Up in a dictatorship. And I don't even remember ever witnessing anything like that. To have a democracy, a beacon of hope for the world to now be turned into one of the worst countries where the military are in our streets without any regard for people's constitutional rights.
What are you talking about? Regardless. With constitutional right, we give more due process to these immigrants coming into these countries and into our country illegally than 90% of them get from the country that they came from. And she's going to make this that she is a lying ass dog.
While our president is spending millions of dollars propping himself up like a failed dictator with a military parade.
Oh. They had a military parade. Oh dear. Oh no. They had a military parade celebrating the 250th anniversary of the Army. Are you kidding?
Which also happens to be Trump's birthday. But that's what they were first trying to say.
Yeah, that's right. Because it was on Trump's birthday. They said, okay, the Army birthday just happens to coincide with. I mean, if you think of the hateful vitriol, I mean, think about how irrational these people are. I mean, it's just almost inconceivable how irrational they are. Yeah. So, and this is a woman who committed immigration fraud herself and married her brother. Yeah, she needs to be deported. Okay, what do we got here? Oh, this one I've seen. This one. Let me start this over. This is her. This is Rashida, not Rashida. What's her name? Illian on CNN. Here we go.
I just think it was the video where it called him Dr. Frankenstein and said his monster shot him through the neck. I mean, obviously this is a person, and looking at this is someone who was a husband and a father, and in the days after his shocking death, that happened as a result of his views, or it happened as a result as he was sharing his views publicly with people, that people found it jarring to hear such criticism of that in the immediate aftermath of
what
death.
I find jarring is that there are so many people willing to excuse the most reprehensible things that he said.
Okay. What about the reprehensible things that you say, Illian? Would you? I mean, then what you're basically saying is that, okay, if somebody put a bullet in your dumb ass, killed you, then you would think that your line of thought on that is that since you say some of the most reprehensible things in the world, that justifies the killing.
Now, okay, for the YouTube censors out there, the FBI, the Secret Service, Eric and no one at the Cross and Crescent is advocating for any harm to become of Ilhan Omar except for her deportation. He was clearly using that as a what-if scenario, an example of whataboutism. Okay. Anyway, just let you know. You'll notice.
I'm saying is that using her logic. Look at
right. Yes.
Using her logic, then she would actually be okay if somebody turned around, and I'm not advocating the shooting of Illian Omar, but using her logic, the people who with the things that she says, the people who would condemn that would be reprehensible too. What a mensch. My God.
Also notice, she's now, I've noticed this in a lot of her latest appearances, she's now wearing the formal hijab, where before it was just her African hair thing, head covering. But now this is more, maybe she's embracing Islam more and more. But go ahead, continue on.
Well, she gonna be somebody's second wife now, or what?
Probably. Oh, she married a white dude.
That they're willing to have monuments for him, that they want to create a day to honor him, and that they want to produce resolutions in the House of Congress honoring his life and legacy. It is one thing to care about his life, because obviously so many people loved him, including his children and wife. But I am not going to sit here and be judged for not wanting to honor any legacy this man has left behind. That should be in the dustbin of history, and we should.
Okay, so the guy advocates for free speech, engagement of ideas, thoughts,
love in Christ, follow your God, go to church.
Yeah, that's a big,
marry, have children, live a righteous and purified life, work hard. All ideals of America. And she calls Republican.
All these left-wing ideas of the promotion of, the transsexual,
right,
participating in women's sports.
Well, we can't say transsexual; they're transformers or trees.
Whatever. The mutilation of children, the advocacy of the promotion of homosexual marriages, all of these things that her religion her religion despises and actually people. I mean, they throw homosexuals off of roofs. Transsexuals wouldn't last. I mean, send them to Gaza. How many days? How long would a homosexual, openly gay, homosexual, transsexual, make it in Gaza? They'd live about as long as a Jew would. Not long at all.
That's why I'm seriously thinking Israel keeps making a mistake by turning away these Greta Thunberg relief flotillas. They should allow them to go in and just sit back and watch the carnage. But real quick, I do want to address something that Illian Omar said. She's repulsed by people wanting to build statues and monuments to Charlie Kirk or have a resolution honoring his life in Congress. Here's the thing: this woman and these lefty lunatics, when a violent, felonious criminal died of a drug overdose while resisting arrest for passing a counterfeit $20 bill, they built statues to him. They not only passed resolutions in Congress, they bent the knee, to him.
Rotunda and all of them. Policy and Schumer and all that. Let me bend my knee to you, George Floyd.
Nancy Pelosi, thank you, George Floyd, for dying to show us what justice really is. I mean, these people are so pathetic. This isn't mad.
That Chauvin cop out of jail for that. Do you think that this ever?
Dude, okay, so Trump pardons him. No, this is just to talk on this. Chauvin pled guilty to the federal charges because he thought he'd be more protected in federal prison. No. Okay, well, he got stabbed 27 times in federal prison. But either way, it's still safe for him in federal prison than it is in state prison. So the petition is for Trump to pardon Chauvin on the federal charges, which he pled guilty to pardon him. But then he's going to be released to Minnesota State Prison, which he will not be protected. He will not be safe. And he does not want to go to Minnesota prison. So this whole thing, dude, it's just kind of stupid, foolish. The only way he's going to get out is if Minnesota elects a Republican governor. And then they can pardon him at that level, or if he gets a new trial.
My sister used to live in Minnesota, and they elected Jesse Ventura.
Well, Jesse was part of the freedom, whatever. That was the movement, the Ross Perot movement.
All right.
But anyway, wait. Let me just. So that's what I want to say to her. So no, these people are so vile. Oh my God! And they put George Floyd in a golden casket. And Mayor Fry sitting there weeping, kneeling in his casket. Oh my God, these people. Yeah, play this one. This is a good one. Yeah, play that one.
I mean, there are so many African Americans that could be celebrated in this country.
Yep.
For the lives that they live, the things that they've done. And what do? They hold up this guy that committed a home invasion, stuck a pistol in the stomach of a pregnant woman. She was 8-9 months pregnant, and robbed a woman. This is a guy who had a full ride scholarship to play football. I mean, this guy is absolutely humongous. I mean, the guy was huge. And to see that, him piss away, all of these gifts that, his physique, his physicality, his opportunities that he was given, and then ends up like this, and to celebrate.
He held a gun to a pregnant woman's belly, threatening to shoot her during a home invasion robbery.
Right. Yeah.
That's
your George Floyd. That's the guy that they were celebrating. Like I said,
Floyd.
If you're going to celebrate an African American and do it based on a racial for racial reasons, that's not the guy. There's so many others. I mean, you could have done something else. All right, let's do this last one and be done for the night. Here we go.
What I do know for sure is that Charlie was someone who once said, guns save lives.
Guns do save lives. What the hell is wrong with you, woman? Guns do save. Do you know how many people use a gun to protect themselves in our country and live through it. This woman is just, she's just stupid. And she appeals to stupid people. Why? Because they all have the same affiliation, home affiliations back in Somalia.
After a school shooting. Charlie was someone who was willing to debate and downplay the death.
And also, those school shootings that we've been talking about, they're all done by trans people. Illian, do you think that maybe, stuffing your body full of testosterone as a female might have something to do with it and have nothing to do with it?
Of George Floyd in the hands of Minneapolis police.
I think he called him a scumbag.
Right, have no regard.
He was a scumbag. I mean, what do you call somebody that passes $20 bills off, puts a gun in the belly of a pregnant woman when doing a home invasion and robbery? Somebody who resists arrest, who was high on fentanyl. What do you call somebody like that? You call him a gentleman? A hero? I don't know.
Art, downplay slavery and what Black people have gone through in this country.
I need a quote on that, and I need to see what the hell she was talking about.
By saying Juneteenth should never exist.
As a federal holiday? No.
Actually, let me comment on that real quick. I have to comment on that. This is where I think Republicans are making a grave mistake with this rejecting Juneteenth. We should embrace it as Republican Freeing the Slaves Day. Okay? No, I am serious. Okay? All right? That's what it needs to be named. Happy Republicans Freed the Slaves Day. Okay? Democrats had nothing to do with that.
Good idea.
You know what I mean? Just totally rub it in their face.
Why? Okay. Think of the political climate of when that federal holiday was established.
No, that's what I'm saying. They screwed up.
At the height of this George Floyd BLM baloney.
That's what I'm saying. The Republican knee-jerk reaction was just to reject it. They should have embraced and said, yes, this is our holiday. Because it was the Republican general, that rode into Galveston, Texas. He was a member of the Republican Party. He was at the head of the Union Army. That was a Republican-controlled army that were fighting Democrats. All right? To free the slaves of Democrats. And they finally freed the slaves of Democrats on Juneteenth in Galveston, Texas. Praise the Lord. Pass the Bible and ammunition.
We already do have a holiday celebrating our freedom. It's called July 4th. But
yes, I know, but I'm just saying they should have embraced it and just threw it in their face. So we continue playing.
And I think, there are a lot of people who are out there talking about him just wanting to have a civil debate.
Complete rewriting of history.
Listen to this little Mandi Hassan dude. Rewriting of history. Yeah, no, that's what all he did was have civil debates on college campuses.
The rewriting of history is done by these people. It's not the other way around.
Exactly.
How do I know this? Well, I'm a history teacher.
Yeah, there is nothing more effed up, than to completely pretend that his words and actions have not been recorded and in existence for the last decade or so.
Then why can't you play them and then debate them, Illian? And shut up. Nobody wants to listen to you. I can't stand her. I mean, she's what an evil. I think
that's your Minnesota congressman. You're from Minneapolis, George Floyd. George Floyd country.
I'm going to contract my congressman and see if he can pass for some type of bill advocating for her deportation. She committed immigration fraud. I mean, if you are in the Congress and if these people that are in the Congress commit some type of fraud and they're here fraudulently, then you should be removed. I don't care if you were a United States senator. I don't. None of this stuff should be a concern or a something to take into consideration. She's just sick. Okay, we're gonna call it a night, guys. This is our new night, Wednesday nights. I know for some people it's church night. and I apologize for that. But for the foreseeable future, this is the only night that we do not bump into schedule. I have scheduling conflicts because I have grandchildren that play ball. And I don't want to do it on a Sunday night because it just tears up my weekend. So we're gonna do it on Wednesday nights for the foreseeable future. And I'd appreciate it if you could all join at that time. Those that came tonight, thank you so much for coming. Pray for our sister Connie. She's in our prayers. She sends me these all these pictures of what she's going. And it's just comforting to know that where her heart is in all of this. And my sister, you are definitely in my prayers. In what you're going through. Okay, Darcy, do you have anything to add tonight to the Shirks-a-lot, Miss Shirks-a-lot?
If I were in front of that Muslim woman, I would tell her to shut up and go home if you don't like it here.
Oh, what? Oh, I don't want to play this. Do I want to play it? Yes, I want to.
What's the phrase?
Play it, Kaffer. Okay, I got you. Where am I at? Where is it? I had it here. This right here. Okay, here we are. Let me bring it up. Let me bring this up. Here you have Muslims taking over. Okay, where did I go? Did I cut me off? No, I didn't cut me off. Here we go. We're going to close out with this. Here we go. Okay, let me.
Hezbollah, bombed the embassy in Beirut, and including many Americans. So I just feel it's quite inappropriate.
You are an Islamophobe, and although you live here, I want you to know, as mayor, you are not welcome here. And the day you move out of the city will be the day that I launch a parade celebrating the fact that you moved.
Okay, so here you have a Muslim immigrant coming into the United States. He gets elected in a Muslim majority city, Dearbornistan. Let's just call it for what it is, a Muslim majority city. And then he wants to name a street in Dearbornistan after somebody who is a noted, demonstrable supporter of terrorism. And then you have a Christian who lives there, grew up there, lived there his entire life, comes and says, hey, I don't think it's a good idea for you to do that. For the rest of us are in the committee. And what does this immigrant say to the American citizen? I don't want you here. I don't think you should live. How about, gunfighter, you take your dumb ass back to the country that spawned you because we don't want you here. If you are not going to recognize American value, if you're going to tell a man, I don't want you living in my city, screw you, buddy. I don't know who the hell this guy is or what they're doing up in Dearborn. I do have an idea what's going up in Dearborn, but this is just an explicit example of the arrogance that these people have coming into our country, using the rights that we have in order to try to tear down the culture that has been built because of those rights. This guy's an ass. This guy needs to be called out, and this needs to be played on every channel in the Western Hemisphere, just to show how arrogant these people are and how entitled they think they are. You're going to come into our country, and then you're going to tell people that somebody's not welcome there, that's from there. Deport that thug now. Thank you, Miss Connie.
He also said that he would that if the guy does, they're going to run this dude out of town. In other words, this man is going to send up the police to harass him 24/7. Every time if he parks just a little bit over the line, he's going to get a ticket. If he does 2 miles over the speed limit, they're going to give him a ticket. They're going to just totally harass him to the point where he does move out of town. But notice what he says. I will throw a parade when you leave town. I mean,
I'll personally pay for a parade to throw his ass out of town.
That would be great. Yeah,
and I won't even do a GoFundMe. I'll pay for it myself, and I'm just a teacher.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah,
this is just pathetic, dude. I mean, no, they want us to. How can I'm sorry, but dude, I'm just so over it now. I mean, I know Charlie Kirk would say, no, we need to talk to these people. We need to rationalize. How can we rationalize with them? How can we talk to them? How can we caucus with them? How can we come together with them? I mean, no, I am sorry, but I just don't see it.
Look at there. This is a great idea, Rad.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that?
All right, sounds cool. Yeah, sounds cool.
Yeah, what a great idea. Yeah. And okay, and Ross, why are you late, man? Come on. I got here. I see that. It's okay, brother. We appreciate you coming. We appreciate you coming. We really do. Okay, everybody. Again, thank you again for coming to the Crossing the Crescent discussion group. We're going to try to be here every Wednesday now, 5 o'clock Central Standard Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you have any topics that you want discussed on the show, come to the show. Email me at Eric the Caffer. Let me write it here in the Eric the Caffer at gmail.com. There we go.
Be here, be square.
Yeah. Also, if you want a copy of the slideshow, oh my goodness. The slideshow that I did on Islamic slavery, email me and I'll send that to you too. All right. And we will see you next time on Cross the Crescent discussion group.
Advanced student and specialist, that the standard narrative has holes. That's what
that the Muslims were rioting against one another. And as much as we don't want to face the fact, the Muslims were lying sometimes. They were fabricating, they were embellishing, and that might be hard to accept, but that is a reality.